A blind woman of faith was offered to have her eyesight cured in exchange for her hand in marriage to an unknown benefactor. However, she soon realizes that this was not an act of God, but an act of greed. During a stormy night, a blind woman named Nastya wanders in the living room of a boarding school for the visually impaired, feeling her way around the darkness. She goes to the bedroom and settles near a window until her friend, Anya, wakes up and tells her to return to bed. The listless woman asks Anya if the leaves sound like the ocean, and Anya nods before asking if she made her decision, and Nastya admits she hasn't. In the morning, Nastya and a long line of women head towards the church where they do communion. Later, the ladies gather for breakfast, and as Nastya makes her way to her friend's table, a woman calls her, saying she needs to visit the principal. Beside her, Anya mutters that the principal's been looking for her all day. Nastya heads to the office where the principal, Ludmila, is busy talking on the phone. After her call, she asks Nastya if she wants to continue the surgery in Germany. The woman squirms nervously as Ludmila reminds her that she only has a year to decide. Otherwise, it'll be too late to operate on her eyes. Adding to this, she already has a benefactor paying for it. Nastya reasons that the benefactor's condition was marriage and she doesn't want to be married to someone she doesn't know. Ludmila explains that millions of women only dream of marrying a rich oligarch, but Nastya still refuses. Frustrated, Ludmila tells her that the man is in love with her. She sneers at how the woman would reject this prince on a white horse when he's her only chance to regain her sight. Still, Nastya mutters that she wants to be a nun at the convent. Ludmila scolds her, saying she hasn't lived her life yet and already she wants to lock herself up in a church. The principal then turns her faith against her, wondering if this prince is a miracle from God and she is rejecting it. Nastya falters, then bargains to make a decision by next morning. Sometime later, Nastya heads to the church offices where she meets with Serafima, the head nun, who then guides her inside her room. There, the nun asks if Nastya made a decision about her surgery, but the blind woman replies that she hasn't. Serafima believes she is afraid to admit that she wants the surgery. To help her decide, Serafima reveals that 10 years ago, an elder nun saw Nastya and appointed her to become the next head nun to succeed Serafima. The nun explains that Nastya has a special destiny to become a nun, only for a temptation to appear just before she could make her vows. Nastya debates if it could be a miracle from God who wishes to cure her. Hearing this, Serafima concludes that she has already made her decision and bids her farewell. The blind woman heads to the library where the librarian offers her a newly arrived audiobook, but she decides to listen to Scarlet Sails again. The librarian hands her the earphones to start listening to it, but then she gives the blind woman a sandwich. Nastya tries to refuse it, but the librarian insists, believing that they're not well fed in the boarding school. That night, Nastya can't sleep, so Anya asks her why she's still restless after she made her decision. The blind woman tells her that she figured out who her mysterious benefactor is. She recalls when they practiced with an all-men's choir and one of them held her hand to feel his face, introducing himself as Andre. Thinking that Andre's her benefactor, Nastya rushes to the headmistress's office the next morning and exclaims that she accepts her benefactor's offer. Sometime later, Nastya is driven to the airport with Marina, her benefactor's assistant. To her disappointment, Marina names the benefactor as Mikhail Alexandrovich and explains that she'll hold the marriage contract until he signs it. Nastya then boards Mikhail's private jet, and her mood is uplifted upon feeling the sensation of flying for the first time as the plane heads to Germany. After the surgery, Nastya opens her eyes to doctors and a nurse eagerly waiting for her. The nurse asks if she can see, and the woman is awestruck as she sees the world. They guide her to the window and she wanders to a mirror. Upon seeing her reflection, Nastya falls to her knees and prays. Soon, she's dismissed from the hospital, and during the drive to meet her benefactor, Nastya marvels at the sights. She even asks to stop by a fountain to appreciate it. At a hotel later, Marina finally introduces Nastya to her benefactor, Mikhail Alexandrovich. The man is surrounded by servants and a masseuse nursing his head. Nastya is paralyzed, as he's far from what she expected. Mikhail offers a drink to break the ice, then toasts to his coronation of becoming a czar, which also means she's going to be the Tsaritsa. She's overwhelmed, but Mikhail casually mentions that money is power because he can buy power and it's how the world works. Nastya disagrees, saying that the world is wrong because it serves greed and not God. Mikhail's taken aback but is impressed. He tells her that this world is a filthy place, but he still found her her and it's better to be a czar than whatever else right now. Nastya asks why he chose her since they've never met. He reveals that he did meet her a month ago when he visited her town for a lucrative project. There, he listened to a church choir and watched her solo performance. After that, he couldn't stop thinking about her. That night, Nastya waits anxiously in Mikhail's bedroom. The man arrives and touches her, which makes her flinch. Understanding her nervousness, he asks if she has any experience, but she mentions that she'd only heard of it from her classmates. When he asks to show him what she knows, all she does is touch his face. Feeling impatient, Mikhail tells her to remove her gown. As soon as she does, Mikhail uses his fingers. As she reaches her peak, the man pushes her on the bed to finish it. The next morning, Mikhail looks for Nastya and finds her weeping on the bed. She tells him that she feels horrible about last night, as if she did something shameful. The man feels a pang of guilt, but asks her to have breakfast with him. As they eat in a high-class restaurant, Mikhail tells her that once they get their bearings, he'll hold 2 weddings. One in Moscow to get the glamour and attention, and another in her town so her friends can see her off. Later that afternoon, Marina presents Nastya, who's had a makeover, to her employer. Mikhail is impressed by her beauty and they head off to the airport to go back to Russia. They arrive in the evening and during the drive, Mikhail introduces Nikolay, his chief of security. Soon, they arrive in the mansion where Mikhail's servants applaud his return with his fiancée. One of the staff tours their employer's fiancée around the manor and leads her to her room, which has a connecting door to Mikhail's. Once she is left alone, Nastya peers through the window and sees armed guards patrolling the grounds. The next morning, Mikhail feeds his pet birds as Nastya arrives to greet him. The staff lead her to the breakfast table and the man joins her, asking her to start waking early so they can talk during breakfast. He mentions that if she wants to go anywhere, she needs to talk to security. Nastya replies that she wants to take a walk, but Mikhail asserts that she'll only be driven by security. Sometime later, Mikhail drives out, but a slow-passing cargo train stops them. His security officer comments that the train is Mikhail's idea and nobody's figured out what's inside. The man tells him to stop talking as he calls one of his secretaries. Mikhail steps out of the car and tells the secretary to create a new charity fund and place Nastya as the head of the organization. Meanwhile, Nastya heads to the security office and asks to be driven to the beach. Once there, the security officer guides her to a viewing area and hands her binoculars. She peers into them and sees the large waves of the sea for the first time. Early in the morning, Nastya stirs awake and sees Mikhail approaching her bed. The man asks to talk to her and complains that he always feels pain in the morning. He mutters that he had a Swiss doctor check him and they determined that it was phantom pain from psychosis. He yells that he could be killed at any moment, then slaps himself out of the horrid thoughts. Wrought by phantom pains and anguish, he curls himself towards Nastya and tells her that when he was young, a homeless woman grabbed him and told him that his end was near while saying his own name. He stresses about how the woman knew his name despite not knowing her. He bawls and demands his fiancée to soothe him. The woman finds this uncomfortable, but tries anyway. Sometime later, Nastya visits a church. A priest blesses her and she weeps by the holy images. After the church, Nastya is driven by security to a street where field medics attend to the wounded Mikhail. He greets her jovially and tells her that he was in a shootout and lost his 2 guards. He sees this event as proof that the homeless woman was right. That evening, Mikhail finds Nastya reading a Braille prayer book. He asks why she's still reading in Braille, so the woman admits that she's not yet used to regular letters. Feeling frisky, he tells Nastya that her inner beast of desire is still small and needs nurturing. The woman recoils in disgust, but the man reminds her of their first tryst where she scratched him in bliss. This just disgusts her further, so she asserts that people need to nurture their spirit, not their desire. Mikhail laughs and argues that monks torment and starve themselves, but they never change. Nastya exclaims that he has no right to condemn holy men since he himself has never even prayed. The conflict excites him and he lunges at Nastya to kiss her, but she resists. He berates her for this, saying she could hurt him just because they had different opinions. He insists that his view of the world is true, but the woman argues that it's only how his world works. The rest of the world is different. During breakfast in the morning, Mikhail is disappointed at Nastya's simple attire. She explains that she's going to church, but the man jokes that if she's trying to live, it might as well be in style. Nastya asks what he would have done if her operation wasn't successful. Mikhail frankly answers that he would have sent her back to the school, adding that nobody needs handicapped people because they only cause problems. She then asked if he loves her. He quickly answers that he does, so Nastya requests a white marriage where both people are wed, but without intimate relations. Mikhail suddenly grabs her by the neck and mutters that she doesn't love him. When she confirms this, he releases her, satisfied that she's honest when any other woman would lie and shower him with affection. That night, the two board the private jet to attend a performance in Moscow. Once there, Nastya comments that she could smell blood. Mikhail mutters that in this place, power always leads to blood. In the performance hall, Mikhail guides her to a lobby and speaks to a middle-aged woman. The woman asks if Nastya is his wife, and he jokes that she's his widow. The woman returns the joke, saying her husband is her widower. The two board the plane after the performance. There, Mikhail sees Nastya's sullen demeanor and asks what's wrong. The woman explains that the people there gave enough tips to keep the show running, but the money could have been given to save a man's life. Mikhail shrugs, wondering why he bothered to save a man. Once they're back home, Nastya rushes out of the car in tears and exclaims that Mikhail's soul is tainted. She prays for him every day to be saved, since that's what the priests teach. However, Mikhail merely assumes he's just a lunatic compared to her. During breakfast the next day, Mikhail tells Nastya to help the wedding planners. She asks why she has to, and the man carefully explains that she needs to make the small decisions like the dress and the carriage. She asks about the carriage, and Mikhail scolds that they already discussed that she'll ride a carriage with him and be given a golden key by the mayor. She tells him not to scold her, and Mikhail replies that it's because she's hard to talk to. Sensing the turmoil, Mikhail offers to let her go to the boarding school to see her friends. The woman quickly agrees. When she arrives, she notices the place is empty. Ludmila and the staff welcome her in, and she tells her that Mikhail made a generous donation for renovations. As they head to the class, the headmistress explains that due to the renovations, they had to transfer the students temporarily. Because of this, Nastya heads to the bedroom alone and reminisces. After a while, she goes to the church but hesitates. Instead, she uses her chance to go for a walk and explores the town for the first time. She also heads to a musical instrument store. She browses around until Andrei comes out and suggests an album from his band. Recognizing him, Nastya suddenly feels dizzy, so Andrei offers to take her to a cafe. In the cafe, Andrei talks about his role as a lyric writer in their band. He tells her that he writes only at night because that's when he's most creative. That night, Andrei invites her to a party and the woman hangs out with his friend. Later, he takes her to his room where he shows her the window he sits by at night to gain inspiration. She marvels at the view, muttering that it feels good to be here. Finally finding comfort, Nastya kisses Andrei. However, she realizes her mistake and tells him that she has to go. He asks her to call him that night during his creative hour and hands her a copy of their album. In her hotel later that evening, Nastya listens to Andrei's music and feels new emotions emerge from inside. She soon calls Andrei and they talk about love. The man describes it as a lightning bolt that struck him. He adds that love was a much bigger feeling than he ever imagined, as if his heart was going to burst. Nastya agrees, so Andrei invites her back to his place. Not wanting Mikhail to find out, she takes a cab to the building and climbs up the stairs. She grows tired as she climbs, but when she reaches Andrei's floor, she hesitates about what she's about to do. Ultimately, she leaves and walks to her hotel on her own. Meanwhile, Nikolay hands Mikhail a report regarding Nastya's call, saying she left the hotel. He tells him about what they dug up about Andrei, and Mikhail stands up in disbelief, muttering what a hypocrite Nastya is. As Nastya reaches the hotel, Mikhail and his security team arrive. Immediately, the woman begs Mikhail to let her go, promising that she'll pay every cent she owes him. She admits that she can't be with him because she loves another man. Despite it being close to the wedding, Mikhail remains calm and asks her to go inside the hotel to discuss it. However, as he opens the door, he drags Nastya by the hair all the way to his room. He throws her inside, exclaiming that he gets to decide how long he wants her. Mikhail demands the terrified woman to gather herself and make herself presentable before leaving her. The next morning, Nikolay reports to Mikhail that Andrei had an overdose and jumped out the window, with eyewitnesses confirming it. The security chief adds that it's taken care of, implying that this was arranged. Mikhail gathers himself and approaches Nastya, who's sitting on the bed. She still begs to be let go, but Mikhail gently tells her that Andrei's gone due to an accident. She accuses him of ending Andrei, but the man instead says that she's the one responsible. Mikhail then goes to the bar and asks the bartender for water. Still bothered, he asks the bartender if he can feel something ominous in the air. The bartender nods, saying it's the magnetic storms the news mentioned. Mikhail then asks him if he likes the current czar and if he goes to church. The bartender answers that he respects the current ruler and rarely goes for worship. He then pulls out a magazine clipping of a poem, which mentions that peacemakers are often dark and ferocious, enough to make holy men run in fear of judgment. Later, a man arrives looking for Mikhail as the governor has arrived and is expecting him. Mikhail glares at the man, prompting him to leave. Meanwhile, Marina goes to the hotel room looking for Nastya, only to find the woman with bleeding eyes. This prompts Marina to run in a panic. Sometime later, Nastya is is unceremoniously led out of the hotel with bandages on her eyes, leaving her to walk on her own. At nightfall, she manages to find her way back to the church as heavy rain falls. She feels her way around until she finds her old bedroom. There, she stands by the window, wondering how one decision had impacted her and Andre's lives. She then makes her way outside, walking the same path that led to the church. However, before she can reach it, she kneels down, then makes the sign of the cross. She inches forward and does it again and again as penance, begging for forgiveness as she returns to the house of the Lord.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.